Just a little disclaimer beforehand, this is going to be a lot more opinion based than usual, so keep that in mind. Also, there will be spoilers, so be warned. Anyways, hello and welcome to the first Arrow April. Today we'll be discussing my favorite season of Arrow and why. Yeah, we're jumping straight into a controversial topic, so let's do this elimination style. First up, let's talk about season 1. Now I know a few people that think season 1 was the best, and I can definitely see why. The first season had a great villain and was very well paced, with occasional jokes to lighten the mood, not too much at all though. The mid-season finale was also great, with Oliver getting his butt kicked for the first time. However, the backstory was where this fell short. It just was nothing. There was a villain that just wanted money, and that's it. Oliver wasn't getting anywhere, just doing the same thing every episode, and that's just not fun to watch. I do have to mention Yafei though, because he was pretty awesome. Okay, so let's talk characters. This season has the advantage of being the first, therefore it has every character and is all about developing them. Tommy was a weird case because he was a great character up until about the 15th episode when he changed for the worst. He then turned into a complaining, not understanding jerk and acted like he needed a good night's sleep all the time. This was the prime of Oliver's brooding, but that's not a bad thing. It made sense and was nice. It actually seemed like what someone would do in his case. Quentin versus Oliver was also great because Quentin was a character who, even though hunting the hero, actually made sense with what he did. Also Slade, Wilson, and Shadow, but more on that in the next season. Next is season 2, which was the hardest one to choose if it was my favorite or not. This season started out strong with Arrow back on the island where Dale and Felicity had to go get him to bring him home. Roy, aka Arsenal, being a part of Arrow's team was also awesome. The flashbacks were as strong as they ever will be, and Deathstroke might be the most intimidating villain to appear on Arrow. Plus, the season finale was great and very intense. How could you not mention the start of The Flash, too, which also happens about halfway through. Now the downfalls. The mid-season finale was very forgettable. I mean, at the time of writing the script, I don't even know what happened. Also, I know a lot of you will disagree, but Sarah was in this one too much in my opinion. I just don't really like that character. That's really it though. This was a very good season, and I find myself going back to it a lot. Now let's go into more detail on the characters. We have to start with one of my favorite villains from TV, Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. Slade was an intimidating villain and not someone you want to see in a dark alley. The writing was amazing for him and was only helped by the flashbacks and how every episode they gave more detail on him. This was the prime of the peak of Vertigo's wisdom. If you've ever watched Arrow, you know what I'm talking about. Shadow was a great character and kind of came out of nowhere. She was a great blend of happy and realistic, if only she made it past this season. Oliver's mom was pretty cool, and when she dies, it's probably the saddest death after Tommy. Season 3 will be a long one, so get comfortable. I've watched season 3 so many times it's crazy, and that's because it was so interesting. The characters and relationships were really in depth. They even made the impossible, where something happens to one character, it affects all the rest, and that's pretty impressive considering there's about 6 big characters in there, and I mean it's not just the big characters, it affects everyone in the show, at least if they're somewhat main, and that's pretty impressive. I've just never really seen another show do that, not to this extent. Ra's al Ghul was the right guy at the right time. Oliver and the rest were feeling invincible even with Sarah dying. You guys have seen Arrow, right? But the mid-season finale was the part that made this season for me. When Oliver gets to the top of the mountain only to get stabbed repeatedly and kicked off a cliff was so unexpected and so intense. I remember watching that episode back looking for clues if he would survive or not, probably an unhealthy amount. I even had this theory where that's why that was called Arrow, because it was not just about him. Anyways, let's get on to the characters. Team Arrow seemed so close this season and had a great relationship. Oliver and Felicity were good for one season and then they ruined it. Season 4. I wasn't a fan of Ray Palmer at first, but he definitely grew on me, and I actually think he's a really good character. Sarah dying wasn't very sad to me. It was cool how it was so sudden, but seeing as I didn't really like Sarah, that's probably why. I loved how Thea started fighting, and they basically did a 180 on her character. Wait, does that say season 4? Yep, I thought so. Well, I guess we have to end off this video here. Okay, fine. I will discuss season 4, but I won't be happy about it. Let's begin with the villain, Damien Darhk, who would be a great villain for Flash. But no, he's on Arrow. Yes, he brought magic to a bow fight, the cheater. I mean, this was just weird, guys. They brought magic, light, and dark, and at one point gave Oliver magic. Like, I'm sorry, but what? They made it her seem like a jerk. I'm talking about Felicity now, because I just couldn't even speak her name this season. They seemed to want Arrow to turn into a romance drama, and with a little fighting here and there, but that's it. I just can't keep talking about this season, but I know I have to get on with characters. But they are probably the worst part of this season. Felicity is the worst of them because they took her character, and I actually thought it was pretty good last season, and made it terrible. In an effort to make her more relatable, I guess, they made her a not understanding jerk. Same as Tommy. Diggle and Oliver fighting for half the season was terrible, and where I do see why Dig hated him, it just went on for way too long. There were a couple things, though, that were okay. Thea was great because this was the season she became Speedy, which was cool. Quentin and Oliver working together was really cool, and I enjoyed that. Even though they had kind of done that before, this season seemed like the peak of it. But despite that, like I said, I just can't, we have to move on now. So next we would have season 5, but seeing as that's not ended yet, I can't say too much about it. As far as I can tell, it's shaping up to be a pretty good season overall. I'm especially enjoying Prometheus and the flashbacks to season 1. I don't know how many there have been because I haven't been keeping count. I think there might just be the one, but that was just so cool to see, and to see more from, that time where Oliver was hunting down the list. Anyways, like I said, I really think this will clean up what season 4 did. It was such a crazy season that sucked so much that maybe this is just like the cleanup crew. But now on to the question, which is my favorite season? I mean, if it's not obvious enough, it's season 3, where this did come into heavy competition with 2, and even some weeks I do think 2 might be my favorite. It's just, season 3 has always just been it for me. It's just always been the prime for Arrow, and like I said, I could have talked about this season for hours. I probably have before. That's how good it was. Sometimes I go back just to watch certain clips of it. It's just my Arrow season, And every season since, I've hoped that it's going to be like season 3. Anyways, that wraps up the first ever Arrow April. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did making it. These clips were actually taken from across the day, so that I had to record in the middle of words. But I'm hoping to do a bloopers thing at the end of this so you guys can see all the crazy mistakes that I made. Anyways, you guys know the gist by now. In the top left corner is my most recent video. In the top right corner is another video you might like, and in the middle is my logo. You can click that, subscribe, but I will see you in the next one. Bye.